True Story Media.
So you're running out of closet space. The good news? You don't need to stop shopping. You just need to start selling with The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. Whether it's that mini bag that can't even fit your phone, or those boots you never fully broke in, The RealReal handles everything from photography and copywriting to shipping and pricing. So you can just sit back, get paid, and make room for things that actually feel like you. And with 10,000 plus new arrivals every single day from top designers like Prada, Celine, Louis Vuitton, and Loewe, all for up to 90% off retail, you're bound to find something perfectly on brand to fill that extra closet space with. Plus, right now, you can get an extra $100 to shop when you sell for the first time. Make room for what feels like you. Go to therealreal.com to start selling and get your extra $100 to keep shopping at therealreal.com. That's therealreal.com. Terms apply.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
Welcome to Fruit Loops, Buiti Binafi, and Bienvenidos Bitches. Thank you so much for listening. Fruit Loops is a true crime, history, and comedy podcast that delves into the often overlooked stories of serial killers of color and, more importantly, the victims. We take deep dives into the lives and crimes of these killers worldwide, while also examining the history, culture, and social factors that may have influenced their actions. And the reason that we cover these crimes is because they often go unnoticed by the public. And why is that? Because in the simplest of terms, the news is racist. Allegedly.
And we are Wendy and Beth. She's Wendy, a Black Latinx woman, and I'm Beth, and I just happen to be white. That's just a little piece of who we are. Another piece is that although we are both fascinated by true crime, really fascinated by true crime, and we know a lot about it, keep in mind that we are not journalists, investigators, or psychologists, and the opinions expressed in this podcast are just that, our opinions.
So, who are we talking about today, Beth?
Well, in 1972 in Chicago, prosecutors charged 9 black men with the murders of multiple white people, including 2 entire families, alleging that the killings were part of a nationwide conspiracy tied to a shadowy all-black terrorist organization known as the Mau Mau, a claim that fueled widespread panic across the country. And this is episode 267, The Phantom Cult of Chicago.
Ooh, I'm excited to talk about this one.
Yeah.
But before we do, how you doing?
I've been better, but you know what? I've been worse too. So I just continue to keep on trucking.
Work. Keep on keeping on. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen to Beth. Beth, I don't know if this is going to make you feel better, but I hope it does.
It does make me feel better. Yes, thank
good.
you.
Hurrah!
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just today was crazy busy, meetings, and then my daughter's in Girl Scouts, so we had to go that's why I was late sending you the link to record, because we were selling Girl Scout cookies for 2 hours in 40-degree weather.
Oh, not so nice.
Yeah, you know what? But
that's
we
cool.
made it.
I'm glad she's in Girl Scouts. I was in Girl Scouts when I was a kid. There was some really fun times. Some not so fun times, but...
Yeah, you were a Girl Scout?
I was, yeah.
And you sold cookies?
I don't remember selling cookies. I did get merit badges, yeah, but I don't remember selling cookies. I must have. I don't know, but I don't remember it. Well, my daughter was in the Girl Scouts, and I remember helping her sell cookies.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my Well, so this is a thing. This is a thing. I was a Girl Scout, but then my parents got divorced because Disney, and
Right.
I couldn't be in Girl Scouts anymore.
That sucks.
Yeah. So the whole point is for girls to gain confidence and learn all these skills, but also moms get to bond with their daughters, which is actually the raddest part, even though I don't know if I really like these other moms, and I don't think the other moms like me.
Yeah, I always had that problem with other moms as well.
But I'm too old to make new friends anyway, so look, this is for the kids.
Yeah.
And
it's for your daughter.
Exactly. Also, just wanted to say shout out to the folks in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Standing up to the federal government, rest in power to Mr. Preddy and Ms. Good. There is right and there is wrong. And then sometimes there's a lot of stuff in between. But I think what we're seeing is insane and just plain wrong.
Yeah,
so
it's so obviously wrong. Yeah.
yeah. So with that said, let's take a quick break and then we'll get into the story when we come back.
All right.
We're back. Remind us, Beth, who is our subject today?
Well, this is the story of 9 black men charged with murdering white people as part of what authorities claimed was a nationwide plot by a radical organization known as the Mau Mau. This case was notorious for sloppy and sensationalized reporting, and it's been kind of lost to time. So it was very difficult to research, but we did the best we could. There may be some things that we didn't get right, and if so, let us know.
Yes, please do. Please do. Also, this sensationalized reporting of like race war shit is
nuts.
I'm going to tell you, I'm only one black person, but I got to tell you, I do not give a fuck what is going on in white America. Like, Beth, you sent me that video one time about black people will never be lonely because white people are always in their business. And I mean, generally, black people are not interested in what you guys are doing, but y'all just
want to leave us the fuck
alone. So we'll talk a little bit about those themes as we go through the case. But now we are going to move into the love and light section of our show where we say rest in power to the victims whose lives were cut short, and love and light to their loved ones and communities left in the wake of this crime. The victims' names are Michael Gurchinson, 19, Kathleen Feeney, 16, Paul Corbett, 67, his wife, Marion Corbett, 56, Marion's daughter, Barbara Boland, 22, and Marion's sister, Dorothy Derry, 60. Stephen Hawtrey, 56, his wife, Judy Hawtrey, 53, and their son, Thomas Hawtrey, 17. William Richter, 23, and all of the victims were white. Now, let's get into the setting and the early life of the folks in this case. Take us there, Beth.
Well, the setting in this one is the United States in the late 60s and early 70s. At the time, it was a nation on edge, fractured, volatile, and emotionally exhausted. The Vietnam War seeped into daily life through the draft, nightly news footage, and rising casualties.
Hey, you see any similarities?
I do see a lot of similarities between that time period and this time period, yes.
Yeah. And not to call you out as not a young person, but were you around then?
Yeah, I was a kid. I was a kid during this time. And I remember some of this. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It's just how cyclical everything is wild.
Yeah.
But at the same time, public trust in government was steadily collapsing. Cities erupted with protests as students marched, police clashed with demonstrators, and campuses became battlegrounds over free speech, war resistance, and civil rights.
The Vietnam War, which was long, brutal, and deeply divisive, escalated sharply in the mid-1960s. After the 1968 Tet Offensive shattered claims that victory was near, public opposition exploded. Televised combat, mounting deaths, and revelations of government deception fueled widespread anger, and by 1969, most Americans believed that the war was a mistake.
Yeah, it's interesting because it took a while for the public to get there.
Yeah.
It wasn't immediate.
I mean, they really thought that, they used fear like the government does, the fear of communism to get people on board for the war. And it took a while for them to realize that we had no business being there.
Right. But I will say many of our Black heroes were against it from the beginning.
Yeah.
So just a quick culture corner with Wendy and Beth on the Vietnam War. There were over 300,000 Black Americans who served in the Vietnam War, and that represented 16% of the armed forces, despite being only 11% of the population at the time. And the Black enlisted soldiers experienced disproportionate combat assignments, higher casualty rates. Black Americans accounted for like 1/4 of the combat deaths in 1965. And they faced racial discrimination, including harassment and abuse by fellow soldiers, and leadership and unfair discipline at times being used as cannon fodder.
Wow.
The sentiment for many was that they were fighting for a country that hated them in a place with people, the Vietnamese people, that they had no quarrel with.
Right.
So the Vietnam War the military was desegregated. It was desegregated in the 50s by what's-his-face? I can't remember that president's name.
Korean War? Was it desegregated in the Korean War?
When was the Korean War?
In the 50s.
Okay. Because part of the issue was that all of the top brass in the military, most of them were these white Southern folks who did not like the fact that suddenly we're on an equal playing field. Fuck that shit. So
it looks like the Korean War was desegregated. There was an executive order in 1948. So
the Vietnam War, many of the military top brass, many of them were white men who grew up in segregated America. And, they had a hard time with this new desegregated military and didn't like it. And I think some would say maybe took their anger and displeasure with the new system out on the Black soldiers that were present. One other cool thing I learned about Black soldiers in the Vietnam War is the art of dapping was invented by Black American soldiers in Vietnam. Dapping is, the elaborate handshakes. You know how Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff would shake hands in that show? That's dapping. Or just when you shake somebody's hand and pull your brother in for a hug and a pat on the back. And they did that to express racial solidarity while they were deployed. And I like to think of it as like a form of joyful resistance. And I also wanted to mention the mutual empathy that existed between Black soldiers and the Vietnamese people, because they were both victims of American imperialism and violence. Black people were like, no Vietnamese ever called me the N-word. So just some thoughts I had about this time period and the setting.
Interesting. So I saw that there's a movie from 2025, a Spike Lee movie about Black men in the Vietnam War. Have you seen that?
Of course I have. It is called The Five Bloods. And I watched it to orient myself to the time period in this story. Oh, you got to watch it.
Yeah, I intend to. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
It's fantastic. I've seen it 6 times, I think.
Nice.
I love it. It's so good. And there's a lot of really good stats in it that delivered by Chadwick Boseman throughout the movie. And that's where I got some of that information.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So anyway, Culture Corner concluded. Thank you thank you for listening.
So back to the setting. Protest movements reshaped American life. Colleges became hubs of anti-war and free speech activism, blending civil rights, counterculture, and youth identity. As demonstrations grew, state responses turned increasingly aggressive.
You don't say. And in 1968, clashes at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago led to the prosecution of activists known as the Chicago 7. There's also a movie on Netflix about that.
I saw that one, yeah.
Yeah, that I enjoyed that one.
That was really good.
Yeah. And this reinforced fears that dissent itself was being criminalized. Wait a minute.
Yeah. It's so weird how we are experiencing this right now.
The Twilight Zone.
At the same time, the Black Power movement, which was deeply misunderstood as a movement for Black power at the expense of other groups or hatred for other groups, that's not what it was.
Mm-hmm.
They faced intense repression through surveillance, infiltration, and disruption programs.
Yeah, I've said this before. The Black Panthers started carrying guns in public to protect Black people and anybody else oppressed.
Yeah.
And then the government was like, wait a minute.
No Black people can't have guns.
No more guns. That's enough. So raids, arrests, and internal sabotage weakened movements nationwide, culminating in the 1969 assassination of Fred Hampton, the co-chair of the Illinois Black Panther Party, by Chicago police with the cooperation of the FBI and state's attorney Edward Hanrahan. Remember that name.
Yeah, he comes up later. These actions left lasting trauma and mistrust, underscoring how forcefully the government moved to silence dissent during one of the most turbulent periods in U.S. history.
Yeah. There's a movie also about the murder of Fred Hampton, which is also very good. Black Messiah, I think. Anyway, now on to our subject. For purposes of this story, we're going to focus on the early life of a man named Reuben Taylor, because he is the individual that we could find the most information about. Reuben Taylor was born on June 5th, 1950 in Jackson, Mississippi, at a time when possibility and limitation existed side by side for Black families in the South.
His parents were students at the HBCU Jackson State University, already an exception in a place where many Black families survived on sharecropping wages and little else. Education was the expectation in the Reuben's household.
His mother would later teach in Chicago public schools. His father became a supervisor at the post office. And doctors and lawyers were part of his extended family. But as a child, Reuben didn't yet grasp how rare that kind of stability was or how fragile it could be.
As his family grew to include 3 more children, including a brother named Donald, his parents made a decision rooted in hope and fear. They left Mississippi, seeking refuge from the suffocating racism of the Deep South. They settled in North Lawndale on Chicago's west side.
Reuben thrived academically. He stayed away from gangs, became a Boy Scout, and proudly marched with his school's color guard. But excellence came at a cost. Carrying books home from Marshall High School marked him as a target for neighborhood gangs.
Reuben was hurt, physically and emotionally, and he became increasingly angry. His parents did not initially grasp the severity of the issue, and he felt there was nowhere to turn. Still, he made a conscious decision not to arm himself with violence or seek protection through a gang.
All right. Doesn't that sound good? Like we're off to a good start?
Yeah, it sounds good so far.
Eventually, Reuben's parents decided to send him and his brothers back to Mississippi for several summers in order to avoid gangs. But there he encountered a different terror, the Ku Klux Klan, rigid segregation, and open racial hostility. Chicago had gangs. Mississippi had white hoods. Wherever he went, there was violence.
When Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1968, Reuben's neighborhood in Chicago erupted and fires tore through Lawndale. By then, Reuben had grown resigned to a grim possibility that he might die young, either on Chicago streets or overseas in Vietnam.
That's like a devastating...
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's my reality.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention that when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated and Reuben had these feelings, it is my understanding that most, if not all of Black America felt resigned to how grim things were now.
Yeah, he was not alone.
Mm-hmm. And the war was escalating, and the draft was pulling heavily from poor communities where college deferments and medical exemptions for bone spurs and such were out of reach.
Yep.
So in 1969, Reuben enlisted in the U.S. Marines, following a family tradition. His father and uncles had served in World War II.
But the military was no refuge. In Vietnam, racism was rampant. Confederate flags flew openly. Racial slurs, discrimination, and physical attacks from fellow Marines created a very hostile environment.
For survival, Black Marines formed protective groups. One of them was called De Mau Mau, a play on words from the Kenyan Mau Mau uprising against British colonial rule, and from the Vietnamese phrase Đi Mau, meaning go quickly or hurry up. You know, Black people got to put their own little flavor on
Twist
it. De Mau
on it.
Mau.
Yeah. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
In May of 1970, Reuben heard about the Jackson State Massacre. Police and National Guardsmen had fired over 150 rounds into a group of student protesters at a predominantly Black college. It happened 10 days after the Kent State shooting, but is far less remembered.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say, I was like, Beth, don't you mean the Kent State shooting? Because I did not know.
I didn't know about it either, which is crazy. I knew about the Kent State shooting, but not about Jackson State.
Yeah, crazy. So Jackson State was his parents' alma mater. His relatives studied there. His uncle was the university's president. And the shooters were men wearing the same uniform he wore. Reuben began to ask himself, why am I fighting for a country that is killing Black people at home?
Still, he completed his service and was honorably discharged in 1971. He returned to Chicago and to more hostility. As we described, America in the early 1970s was unraveling. Vietnam divided the country, and returning veterans were often treated with suspicion or outright hostility, particularly Black veterans.
Yeah, they were calling them baby killers, things of that nature. Like, how could you?
Drafted.
But they had no choice. Yeah. So the Black Panther Party formed as a means of protection and to advocate for social, economic, and political equality for Black Americans and anyone marginalized. The Black Panther Party was harassed to the point of extinction by the FBI.
Shortly after coming home, Reuben and his brother Donald were brutally attacked by an undercover police officer at a CTA station. The incident ended with Reuben jailed and charged with assaulting an officer.
What?
Yeah. I laugh because it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. To avoid prison, he pled guilty and received probation and time served. He would later say he was amazed that he survived at all.
Yeah, me too. But, I mean, did he though? I mean, as the story continues.
Yeah.
This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ Bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
So Reuben felt lost. He enrolled at Malcolm X College, which works with healthcare and industry partners to provide students with career-oriented education in the healthcare field. There, he studied inhalation therapy, hoping to rebuild his life. But the trauma of war lingered. PTSD shadowed his days. Jobs were scarce, and racism was constant.
Though he had not joined the Mau Mau in Vietnam, he did in Chicago. It was a loose brotherhood of about 10 to 15 Black veterans. It functioned as sort of a fraternity and a support system, a space for survival, Black consciousness, and reconnecting with African and African American roots.
That sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really does, yeah.
Yes, but the weight of everything, war, violence, betrayal, and unrelenting structural racism began to take its toll. Frustration turned inward, direction slipped away, and the promise his parents had worked so hard to give him felt increasingly out of reach. So let's get into the timeline. Hit it, Beth.
On May 3rd, 1972, the body of a young man was found in the woods on the edge of a highway, about 30 miles from the campus of Southern Illinois University, or SIU. He was later identified as 19-year-old SIU student Michael Gurchison from Highland Park. Reportedly, Michael had been shot 6 or 7 times and his car had been stolen.
On June 20th at approximately 10:45 p.m., 16-year-old Kathleen Feeney was shot and killed near her home in Chicago's Brighton Park neighborhood. Some accounts include her case in the broader narrative, while others omit it, and I wonder why.
I think they're not entirely sure that she was part of the series.
Oh, okay.
Kathleen, a white teenager and junior at St. Augustine High School, had spent the evening at a ball game in Gage Park before walking to a girlfriend's house. Although she had recently earned her driver's license, her mother didn't want her driving late at night, so she hadn't let her use the car.
Kathleen was shot twice in the back, once in the head and once in the right side, and died from her injuries. Homicide investigators reported that 4 Black youths were being sought in connection with the killing, and witnesses said 4 tall youths, dressed in dark clothing, were seen fleeing the area shortly after the shooting. Now, I also want to point out, you remember that we've talked about how the Chicago PD, under the direction of, what was his name? The torture and the falsely accusing people. So that's also going on at this time.
Yeah. And, a white girl is shot. There were maybe 4 Black youths in the vicinity. And they didn't necessarily shoot her, but, they're suspicious because they're Black.
Yeah.
On August 4th, a family was killed during a home invasion robbery in the affluent Chicago suburb of Barrington Hills. Among the intruders was the man we spoke about in our setting and early life, Reuben Taylor.
With him was his brother Donald and 2 other men, Michael Clark and Nathaniel Burse. Of the 4 men, 3 were U.S. veterans. Reuben Taylor has always maintained that his only intention that night was to steal property. However, events soon spiraled out of control.
So here's a note on this next part of the story. It's from Reuben's confession, and therefore it's from his point of view.
Okay.
Motivated in part by the belief that white wealth in America was illegitimate, having been built on centuries of exploitation of Black people, the men drove to Barrington Hills, approximately 45 miles away from the public housing project on the south side of Chicago, and randomly selected a house to rob. Again, the intention was to take money and property, not to kill people.
At home that night were Paul Corbett, 67, a retired insurance executive, his wife Marion Corbett, 56, Marion's daughter, Paul's stepdaughter, Barbara Boand, 22, and Marion's sister, Dorothy Derry, who was 60 years old. Dorothy had been invited to dinner with friends elsewhere that night, but didn't like driving back home in the dark, so she declined and went to Corbett's instead.
Donald Taylor knocked on the door, which was answered by Marion. Donald pointed a pistol at her and entered the home along with his companions. The invaders gathered the 4 family members together and herded them into the kitchen. They took money and jewelry and ordered the family to lie on the floor in the pantry.
Burse and Clark then went through the home as the Taylor brothers guarded the hostages. The family's dachshund was apparently barking and annoying Donald Taylor, which, hang on a second, this is disturbing, prompted him to throw a knife at the dog, injuring him.
Yeah, not good. Barbara jumped up to defend the dog. According to Reuben, this startled him and he opened fire with the .30 caliber rifle he was holding, shooting 22-year-old Barbara in the chest and killing her.
He then left the Corbett home and waited outside for his brother. Shortly afterward, Donald Taylor came out and told Reuben that he had shot the rest of the family. All four then fled the scene.
Yeah, so this is from Reuben's point of view, and I don't know, the veracity of it, but if this is actually what happened, Donald seems like a
whoa, a
piece
loose
of work.
Cannon. Donald, what the hell is wrong with you?
What the fuck,
Throwing
Donald?
a knife at a dog.
And then just shooting everybody.
Just shooting I just killed the rest of them just cuz.
Yeah.
Is crazy. Is crazy. And again, human beings lost their lives.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be that way.
No. That evening, family members came to the home and discovered the crime scene. Mr. and Mrs. Corbett were still alive but died later at the hospital. Barrington Hills police found that the Corbetts and Dorothy Derry had all been shot in the head by a .25 caliber weapon, execution style.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
Chicago was shaken by the brutal murders of the Corbett family in the wealthy enclave of Barrington Hills. On August 9th, the Daily News blared a massive headline promising that a break in the case was imminent, and then nothing.
In mid-August, police recovered several guns from a nearby creek. 2 men had been seen dumping them around the time of the murders. For a moment, it seemed promising, but then they discovered that the weapons were of the wrong caliber, and they had nothing to do with the Corbett's deaths.
So at the beginning of September, several men, including Donald Taylor, Nathaniel Burse, Darrell Petrie, William Butch Jackson, Michael Clark, Edward Morin, and Robert Wilson discussed getting money by robbing truck drivers parked along the shoulders of expressways in the Chicago area.
Butch Jackson later became a witness for the state, so much of this is from his point of view. After planning the robbery and securing weapons and cars, the group set out in the early morning hours of September 2nd, 1972, sometime before 3 a.m. They traveled in 2 vehicles northbound on the Edens Expressway.
According to Butch Jackson, Donald Taylor drove 1 car with Nathaniel Burse and Darrell Petrie as passengers. It's worth noting that Petrie disputes this version of events, insisting that a friend of Butch's named Garland Jackson was there, not him. The second car was driven by Butch Jackson and included Michael Clark, Edward Morin, and Robert Wilson. Every man involved was armed.
They stopped along the shoulder of the expressway where a Mustang, a semi-truck, and a pickup truck were parked. 23-year-old William Richter, a soldier home on leave, was asleep inside the pickup. James Davis, 40, a truck driver from Portage County, Indiana, was in the cab of the semi.
Clark, Morin, and Wilson approached the trucks. Jackson moved toward the Mustang, but found its doors locked and windows closed. He then saw Morin run in front of the semi. Moments later, Jackson returned to his car and heard 3 or 4 gunshots coming from the area of the pickup.
James Davis, who was in the semi-truck, later testified that he had been awakened by a man asking for assistance with a flat tire. While conversing with this man, he looked into the rearview mirror and noticed another man with a gun. So he started the engine and drove away, but shots were fired at his truck.
As the semi-truck pulled away, Jackson heard 3 or 4 gunshots. The men ran back to Jackson's car, and he sped off. Donald Taylor and his passengers also fled the scene.
According to a district attorney, Taylor later said that he pulled up in front of the pickup truck, woke the man inside, and demanded money. When the man said he had none, Taylor pointed a .25 caliber automatic at his face and pulled the trigger, but the gun misfired. Then another man who he refused to identify, wouldn't he, stepped forward and fired the fatal shot. Yeah, sure, Jan.
Wow. Yeah. And that's not how, like, a conversation. We're just talking and you pull out a gun. Like, can we continue the conversation? It doesn't have to end this way. Like, I guess, yeah. And also his story is, what the fuck, bro?
Yeah. Donald.
Come on now. So the man shot in his pickup was William Richter, and he died from his injuries 2 weeks later. $280 was taken from him, and the man in the semi, James Davis, got away unscathed.
Then came another family massacre, this time near the south suburban community of Monee. Sometime between 11 p.m. on Sunday, September 3rd, and 1 a.m. on the 4th, at least 3 men forced their way into a modest split-level home in a rural area about 40 miles outside of Chicago.
It was the home of the Hawtreys, Stephen, 56, Judy, who was 53, and their 17-year-old son, Thomas. The family had moved to Monee 16 years earlier from Chicago, drawn by the quiet and the space. Stephen worked as an engineer at International Harvester's West Pullum plant. Judy, recently retired from factory work, raised flowers and vegetables, hoping one day to turn their greenhouse into a small nursery business. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice dream.
Mm-hmm.
That night, the Hawtreys were asleep in their beds when the intruders arrived. All 3 were still in their pajamas. They were forced into the basement, and there they were executed. Stephen and Judy were each shot 3 times in the chest.
Thomas had a knife wound to the back of his neck, suggesting he resisted. He was then shot between the eyes from just a few feet away. The house was ransacked, but there was little to take, and then the killers vanished.
The bodies were discovered just after 10 a.m. Monday morning by Judy's 75-year-old mother, Jenny Verhoeven, who lived in a mobile home only 30 feet away in the backyard. She hadn't heard a thing. That's sad, too, to think of a mom going to visit her family and finding them dead.
Right, yeah. And then I also wonder about, she didn't hear anything, and then, the survivor's guilt.
Yes.
That she may have felt.
Suffered, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now let's get into the investigation and the arrest. I'll tell you. So almost immediately, comparisons were drawn to the murders of the Corbett family weeks earlier. Another family, another home invasion, another execution. And ballistics testing reportedly linked the murders of the Corbett and Hawtrey families, as well as the killings of Michael Gurchison, Kathleen Feeney, and William Richter.
On October 12, 1972, the Taylor brothers and Michael Clark were arrested and subsequently charged with the Corbett murders. My understanding is they were arrested in the subway for something unrelated, and then they got a confession out of them.
Oh, okay, got him.
During questioning, Reuben Taylor confessed to participating in the Corbett murders, specifically shooting Barbara Bowen.
Soon after, Chicago officials declared a major break in the murders, announcing the arrest of 6 men: Reuben Taylor, 22, Donald Taylor, 21, Michael Clark, 21, Nathaniel Burse, 23, Edward Morin Jr., 23, and Robert Wilson, 18. By the way, these are kids.
Young men.
These are
very
young men. But they've been through so much. I mean, considering their veteran status, they've been through hell. Yeah.
The arrests were announced at a tightly controlled press conference for a few hand-picked white reporters, led by Sheriff Richard Elrod, Superintendent James Conlisk, and State's Attorney Edward Hanrahan.
There he is.
There he is. Then campaigning for re-election and notorious for ordering the killings of Black Panther Party members Chairman Fred Hampton and Mark Clark.
Oh, wow. What?
Yep.
He ordered... Oh, my God. Why would anybody vote for that guy? So Hanrahan described the men as being part of a, quote, and this is all bullshit, by the way, nationwide conspiracy to kill whites, unquote, and that this conspiracy was formulated by the Mau Mau organization. Sheriff Elrod added, quote, more bullshit, we have the ringleaders and the triggermen now. We are hopeful we can solve a number of other killings in the area, unquote.
And it wasn't just murders in the area that they were looking to solve by getting this ring of criminals that belonged to the Mau Mau organization. They thought they were going to solve murders all over the country.
Yeah. We got him, ladies and gentlemen. Wait. Mission accomplished. What did George Bush say? Yeah, there's also with law enforcement and government, after something bad has happened, we want the people to trust us. So we got to give them, razzle dazzle them. We got to give them something, even if it's not true, even if it's harmful. This press conference, as you described it, sounds like total a circle bullshit. Jerk. Yeah. Bullshit fest.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't strike me as we want to protect the community and solve these cases. It's more, we want to get reelected. We want the people to trust us again. And maybe I'm wrong and I'm fine with that, but that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Eventually, 4 other men were also arrested. Daryl Petrie, 20, William Butch Jackson, 22, Kenneth Stevens, 21, and Garland Jackson, 21. No relation to Butch, by the way.
Right.
For those of you counting, that's 10 men, not 9. And we're not sure why only 9 men were charged. We don't know which one was not charged.
Yeah.
Again, because there's not a lot. This case has been lost to time.
Yeah. But because of what we do know, it could have been Robert Wilson, Butch Jackson, Kenneth Stevens, or Garland Jackson who was not charged. In any case, the Mau Mau was described in the press as a black militant group, which scared the shit out of people, white people in the 70s, with some referring to it as a, quote, black terrorist gang, unquote. One official described the men as, quote, bitter and full of hatred, unquote.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it's just, as we described in the beginning, they were about liberation and support, which are good things.
And as I said, I was a kid in the 70s, and I remember some of this stuff happening, and I did not know what the Black Panthers were about until way later, because they scared the shit out of us.
Right.
They made us think that they were terrorists.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess America has this way of any time a non-white person says, give me liberty or give me death,
it's like,
as James Baldwin says, it's like threatening. Yeah. And it just is so odd. America is weird. Anyway, at their arraignment, the suspects reportedly appeared with arms extended in the Black Power salute with their fists out. But it's been reported that one of the men muttered despondently to deputies, quote, I just don't care. I hope I get the chair. I just want to get it over with, unquote. Okay.
Despondent.
Yeah. So now let's get into the trial. Hit it, Beth.
The facts of this case are horrifying. People were murdered. The violence itself is undeniable. But in Chicago at the time, the city was already on edge, and that tension transformed a brutal crime into something much bigger, a full-blown racial panic.
As we've already described, this was a moment shaped by political upheaval and racial fear. And it was in the shadow of the Manson family murders. Ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Which had taken place just a few years earlier. Charles Manson had ordered his followers to kill random people in their homes and stage the scenes to appear racially motivated, all in a deliberate attempt to spark a quote-unquote race war.
Against that backdrop, this case exploded into national headlines. Armed robbery was reframed as evidence of a nationwide Black uprising, a campaign of racially and politically motivated violence targeting white victims at random.
And, the other sad thing is that this narrative shaping, it works.
Yeah, it does.
It works.
Yeah.
So central to that narrative was the Mau Mau. Newspapers focused heavily on the defendants' alleged membership in the group, presenting it as a vast and dangerous network. Sheriff Elrod claimed there was mounting evidence of a nationwide network of the Mau Mau organizations.
More lies.
Uh-huh.
State's Attorney Edward Hanrahan, this guy again, went further, branding the group as, quote, wanton, cold-blooded, racist killers, unquote.
Whoa!
And labeling it as a black terrorist group. Chicago Today ran headlines declaring, quote, murder gang 3,000 strong,
Wait
unquote.
a minute, where do y'all get 3,000 from? What the fuck?
And, quote, DeMau taking over for the Panthers, unquote.
Oh my gosh. I can just imagine. See, somebody picking up their Chicago Tribune on the way to work and seeing that and just peeing their pants.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But the reality was far less dramatic. Even government sources couldn't agree on what DeMau actually was. During Reuben Taylor's trial, the Defense Department described it as a small, loosely organized group of Black Marines, many of them serving overseas in Vietnam. Military officials in Saigon stated that they had found no evidence at all. Nada. Nathan. A zilch of Black service members participating in any race hate organizations.
And not all of the men arrested for the murders were even veterans or members of DeMau. What the men did share was a common suffering, racism, a lack of jobs and opportunity. Barry Wright, president of the Concerned Veterans for Vietnam, had met with some of them and said they were bitter because, quote, they couldn't get decent jobs. The way the whole society had turned an about face just turned them cold, unquote.
Well, it sounds like Barry gets it.
Yeah.
So Butch Jackson became a witness for the state, and he testified at multiple trials. It may be that he was not charged, and that's how 10 became 9. We don't know. Other defendants were tried and convicted, receiving sentences between 20 and 200 years. But we couldn't find out what happened to all of them. Reuben Taylor was sentenced to 100 to 150 years. So now let's get into where are they now? Tell us, Beth.
In June of 1973, Nathaniel Burse and Edward Moran Jr. were both strangled to death in their jail cell while in custody in the Lake County Jail, where they were awaiting a second trial. They were both 23 years old. Their cellmates, Donald Taylor, Michael Clark, Darrell Petrie, and Robert Wilson, were charged with their murders, but were acquitted.
Oh. Donald Taylor died while he was in prison. Darrell Petrie was paroled in 2005 after his 28th appearance in front of the Prisoner Review Board. Michael Clark, who was serving a 200-year sentence, was paroled in 2017, and Reuben Taylor was paroled in 2018.
We could not find out what happened to Robert Wilson, Butch Jackson, Kenneth Stevens, and Garland Jackson. Some reports suggest that Kenneth Stevens and Garland Jackson were released from jail, and they may never have gone to trial, but the reporting is unclear. If anyone has any more information, please let us know.
Please, please, please. Today, white supremacist and extremist groups continue to invoke the DeMau murders as evidence, quote unquote, that Black political organizing is inherently violent, using the case to justify racist conspiracy theories, fear-based propaganda, and modern calls for repression. And that is it for the story. Beth and I are going to tell you what our thoughts on the case are. And we hope that you will let us know what your thoughts on the case are, too. You know how to get at us.
Yeah, please do.
So, Beth, what do you think, my friend?
So what made these guys do this? Racism, plus a turn against the Vietnam War, made it almost impossible for these men to find jobs.
Yeah.
I think they turned to crime in order to survive.
Yes.
And you always talk about lack. They were suffering from lack, a lack of resources.
Yeah.
And the military taught at least some of them to be violent. White people became victims because white people had money. They're the ones with the money. And the alleged DeMau conspiracy never existed. It was a narrative tool. So it was just a bunch of guys who were looking to find money in order to survive. And then it turned into this DeMau conspiracy, which it never was. Some of the men were members of DeMau, many were not. But in any case, it wasn't a conspiracy. It was just a brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
What they had in common was poverty, a lack of opportunity, and hopelessness.
Yeah.
And, I don't have sympathy for murderers. It's not about having sympathy for murderers. Usually when I look at these cases, I'm just trying to recognize the conditions that help create murderers and ask what we as a country or as a people can keep doing wrong that allows these conditions to exist in the first place.
Oh my God.
That was a nice podcast.
Yeah, man. That was good. That was good.
Oh, that guy.
That was a throwback.
Yeah. Oh, that was so funny when that happened.
I know. What?
And just an observation about the crimes. They seemed kind of random.
Yeah,
the
totally.
Corbett home invasion and the robbery of the truck drivers are the only ones that really seemed planned out. The Hawtree family, maybe it was planned out as well, but I don't know why they chose that house. It was like, they chose the Corbetts because they lived in a wealthy area.
Yeah.
But why did they choose the Hawtrees? Because it was in a rural area and they didn't even have much, you know?
Right.
And then Kathleen Feeney and Michael Gurchison's murders didn't fit the other murders. And investigators claimed that the ballistics matched. But I wonder if they did. I wonder if they were just lumping all these crimes together. Maybe they did. I don't know.
To get the cases closed.
As you mentioned, this was a time period in Chicago that was pretty corrupt. So
yeah.
And then you also mentioned something else that stood out to me was the ages of the perpetrators. They were so young. Young.
Seeing them all lumped together in that paragraph, I was like, what?
Yeah. 18 to 22, I think they were. Yeah.
Yeah, that is, they were young. And, we talked about this many times, the prefrontal cortex, especially in men, isn't not even fully formed yet. So their decision making is not, they wouldn't have, I don't think, made the same decisions if they had been 20 years older, right?
Yeah.
So, well,
so
thank you, Beth, for
thoughts.
your thoughts. Yeah. Excellent points, Beth. I was thinking you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. Like the FBI tried to make the Black Panthers extinct.
Yeah.
But these movements don't go away. These sentiments don't go away if the problem is never solved. So I just think it's comical that, the FBI is like, we got them when the problems persist. And so people fighting against it will
kinds
consist.
Of things will keep happening.
Kind of like what you said, I'm not making excuses for murderers. I don't think murder is okay. I think what happened to the victims was wrong. And I have empathy for Reuben and others like him before the crime for what they endured. And yes, they had complete lack of safety and peace anywhere they went.
Yeah.
Not safe in Mississippi.
What that does to you, Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. Not safe in Mississippi, not safe on the way to school in Chicago, and insult after insult. And how much can one person take?
Yeah.
Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. Everybody was close to the edge.
Yeah.
And I wonder if many of us can empathize with this, like, another thing.
Yeah.
More bad stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes as human beings, we can look inward and focus on healing ourselves inside and helping people around us in our community in times like that. Or you can turn your frustration outward in a destructive and harmful way. Hurt people, hurt other people. And Reuben's experiences and sentiments were not isolated. Many Black Americans felt that way. I did watch The Five Bloods to orient myself to the setting of this case. And Black Americans had to hold and navigate a lot. And P.S., Black people have been trying to tell everyone that would listen about the unique experience of Black people in America and that we don't like it and it's not fair. And all of this is important because if the American government can do this to Black people, they can and will do it to anybody. Hello?
Yeah.
And that makes all of what is happening right now even more terrifying than ever before, because now we realize that white supremacy hurts everybody.
Yeah.
And just like in this case, not everybody suffered murder, but the men who engaged in these survival crimes that turned to murder, the white people who were perceived to have things were also put in harm's way. I just think it's fucked up for all of us who are here. White supremacy hurts us all, and fascism doesn't care about whiteness, as we have seen. So some may say that being critical of things in our country is hatred of it. And James Baldwin said something along the lines, it's because I love this country that I have to critique her. And America, I love you, but please do better. And, the way a small group of Black people organizing can have some people so shook is insane.
Yeah, it is crazy.
What the fuck? We're just selling Girl Scout cookies. We're not a terrorist group. And I don't know who needs to hear this. Black people are not a monolith, but Black people aren't interested in a race war. Just stop killing us. Stop stealing from us and stop destroying what we've built or created. Stop setting everything on fire. Leave us alone. Can we live? And I think you could make an argument that every single person named in this case is a victim
in some way or
another. Yes, thank you. I have anger for what the Black men experienced at the hands of white supremacy, the state, and all of the trauma they endured. A constant taking of every attempt to survive and then build. Empathy for that, certainly. I can also understand getting to the point when you got nothing. What's that guy? When you got nothing, you got nothing to lose. That's who's that? Timothy Chalamet played that man in a movie. Who is that?
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. That was my Bob Dylan. What do you got nothing? What do you got nothing to lose? But like we talked about in our Sinners episode, hurt people hurt other people, and the victim can turn into a monster, which I think that these gentlemen who engaged in these crimes became. They turned into monsters and murdered people, entire families, even the dog man.
Yeah.
So
Donald,
come on, Donald.
What the fuck?
Seriously, that would just be a what the fuck are you doing? And nobody said what the fuck, Donald.
Maybe they did. I don't know.
I know we only got it from one person's perspective, so we'll never know. But rest in power to each and every murder victim, and we wish for peace and healing for anybody that loved them, anybody that was affected by this case. And instead of that other slogan, let's make dying of old age great again. Huh?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Thank you. All right, Beth, where can the people find us?
Our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media. The footnotes for each episode can be found on our website. Plus, check it out for the different ways that you can support the show. You can also join us on Patreon, where we have hundreds of hours of bonus content. You can also support us by supporting our sponsors, or by giving us a 5-star review.
5 stars only, please.
Don't forget to subscribe.
That's right. Now, this is a weekly podcast, and episodes drop on Thursdays. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there.
Oh, it's my turn.
You okay over there?
Not really.
No, terrible. Thanks for asking.
Thanks for asking, yes.
PTSD shadowed his days. That's beautiful writing, Beth. Jobs. Wow. Toni Morrison, is that you?
Donald Taylor. Let me start over again.
Okay. And Daryl Petrie as what is going on with my mouth?
I don't know, but I'm having the same problem.
Okay. Unscathed. Sorry.
Unscathed. My understanding is they were arrested. Sorry, my brain is glitching.
That's okay. Take your time. It's all good.
I agree.
Also, Wendy?
I know, I fucked that up. But go ahead and we had a little conversation, so go ahead and read the next one.
You are a genius. Sorry, I had a burp. So, well, you got nothing. You got nothing to lose. That's who's that? Timothy Chalamet played that man in the movie. Who is that? Oh, here comes the story of the hurricane. Look what the authorities came to blame. Who is that guy? Billy? No. Oh my God.
Bob Dylan.
That was my Bob Dylan. And instead of that other slogan, let's make dying of old age great again. Huh?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Thank you. Okay, my friend, we did it. And you are amazing. Here, I'm sending good vibes your way.
Thank you.
Hang in there. It can't suck forever.
It can't, right?
I'm pretty sure it can't.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it can. And did you watch The Pit yet? Go watch something enjoyable.
Yes, I did. I did watch it.
I haven't watched
you know
it
what? Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I think, is dropping tonight because the Super Bowl is on Sunday. So that was the rumor that I heard. So I think I'll go watch that.
I started watching that too, and I love it. You were right.
Yeah,
you did
great.
It again. Another one.
Another one.
All right, my friend. I love you.
Love you
and
too.
It's going to be okay. Hang in there.
Yes. Okay. I will.
Nighty.
All right. Good night. Bye.